Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror comedy film, Shaun of the Dead. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins inside the Winchester pub, where a salesman named Shaun is seemingly in a trance with a girly beard. But he's actually being made to talk about his relationship with his beardless girlfriend, Babe. The couple is on a double date with Babe's friends, Nerd and Blonde. But the biggest problem is Shaun's fluffy flatmate, Ed. Babe seems to have a problem with Ed because his fat body is taking up too much space in her relationship with Shaun. She's also upset that Shaun only takes her to the Winchester pub whenever they meet up. Babe is sick and tired of her life with Shaun and wants more muscle wrestling out of him. While Shaun is initially unwilling to offer his insights, he eventually tells Babe that he will take her to a nice restaurant for their 3-year anniversary, which is just around the corner. With a glimmer of hope in her eyes, Babe eagerly anticipates the prospect of a romantic evening, free from Ed's fluffy, space-consuming presence. Later, Shaun goes home, and we meet his other flatmate, Grumpy, who clearly seems to hate the fact that Ed is a useless fatty. Now, Shaun and Grumpy get into a debate with each other over keeping Ed in the house. Grumpy argues that Ed has been living in this house for a very long time, but doesn't bring any money for the expenses, except for the occasional windfall from his not-so-thriving weed business. Unfazed by Grumpy's complaints, Ed reassures Shaun that he'll make an effort to pull his heavy weight around the house. After that, Shaun visits a local grocery store. Here, he notices some newspapers, where the headlines talk about a new zombie virus. This zombie virus is apparently being spread via a new strain of GM crops, but Shaun doesn't give it much attention to the news bullshit. Now, Shaun makes his way to the electronics shop, where he needs to make some sales. But we also notice a person who suddenly collapses on the road, presumably from the new zombie virus. At the electronics store, Shaun is shown to be a loser in front of his colleagues. He isn't even able to instruct a cheeky, bratty colleague on how to do his job, because the colleague treats him like yesterday's chicken nuggets. As the day progresses, Shaun notices the exact same news about the zombie virus to be playing on the televisions at the store. Despite these ominous warnings, Shaun moves ahead and meets his stepfather named Daddy, who sees Shaun as about as useful as a chocolate teapot and thinks of him as a waste of space. Regardless, Daddy asks Shaun to buy some flowers for his mother Mommy because he has to visit her as part of a bi-monthly meeting arrangement. It turns out that Shaun had forgotten to meet his mommy on Mother's Day, so he has to make up for his mistakes. As Shaun buys the flowers, he notices an infected man eating a pigeon like it's all-you-can-eat buffet. The sight is stomach-churning, but Shaun simply shrugs it off and boards a bus. Tensions rise as we can see that all the passengers in this bus are sick, probably due to the new zombie virus. Shaun doesn't want to take any health risks, so he gets off the bus and bumps into a foreign friend named Russia. He briefly chats with Russia and heads back home. However, after he gets back, Shaun realizes that he has to book a table at a fancy restaurant for his hormone moon anniversary with Babe. Panic ensues, and Shaun is unable to get a reservation. As expected, Babe does not take this news lightly and hangs up on Shaun because she is sick of this smelly bullshit. In a desperate effort to reconcile, Shaun visits Babe at her apartment, but they get into an argument with Nerd and Blonde also in attendance, since they are Babe's flatmates. As the argument continues, Babe brings up the exact same issues about her relationship with Shaun that she had mentioned earlier at the Winchester pub. Nerd takes this chance to make fun of Shaun, while also hinting that he has a crush on Babe and wants to crush his hormones on her. This only adds to the drama, so Shaun tries the oldest trick in the book. He offers Babe some flowers to win her over, but these are the same flowers he had bought for his mommy visit. Babe has had enough of dating the shitty Shaun and feels that she deserves more from her life. So she dumps him and tells him to get lost with his girly beard. This breaks Shaun's heart, but not his liver. So Shaun drowns his sorrows at the Winchester pub alongside his trusty sidekick, Ed. Ed proves to be the friend we all need in our darkest hours, using his endearing chubby cheeks and antics to bring a smile back to Shaun's face. The men get drunk and head back home, but also ignore some people on the road who have turned into bloodthirsty zombies. The drama doesn't end there, as Shaun and Ed also have to argue with Grumpy when they enter their house. After a brief discussion, the men notice a bite mark on Grumpy's arm, but he says that he was attacked by a mugger who was rabid. With nothing left to discuss, everyone hits the hay. The next morning, Shaun visits the grocery store and hilariously shops for household items without noticing that he's in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Surprisingly, Shaun goes back home without getting attacked, and then he switches between the news channels on his TV. The news channels only talk about the origin of the zombie virus through the GM crops, and also mention the odd behavior being exhibited by infected people. Now, Ed notices a strange woman in the backyard. He and Shaun go to check up on the woman, and she turns out to be a sexy zombie. But they naively assume she's just a party-goer who's had one too many. The zombie woman attacks Shaun and Ed, hoping to make zombie babies with them. But they push her through a pole without hormone mercy. The two are shocked to see what they've done, because they're still assuming that the zombie woman is a human. However, she gets up again and flexes her zombified muscles, after which another zombie shows up, so the men get back inside their house. They turn on the news, but are only told to stay inside their homes until further notice. Now, a zombie breaks into the house, so Shaun and Ed attack it with beer cans, but the zombie is beer-proof. After a brief struggle, Ed eventually manages to terminate the skinny zombie by smashing an ashtray on its head. After this, the news says that the zombies can be killed either by having their brains destroyed or their heads removed. With this new information, Shaun and Ed go outside the house and use Shaun's vinyl collection to fight the zombies. As expected, this is not a bright idea because they can't land a single kill, and they also end up wasting valuable vinyls. Realizing that they need to use bigger weapons, Shaun and Ed break into a shed and pick up a cricket bat and a shovel to turn up the heat. They proceed to kill the zombies with these new weapons and get back inside the house after an intense battle. Now, Shaun and Ed turn to the news once more and learn that the zombie virus can be spread to humans through a bite from the infected. Suddenly, Shaun receives a call from his mommy, who tells him that his daddy has been bitten by a madman. The two realize that Daddy might be infected with the zombie virus, so they make a plan to rescue Mommy and Babe. Shaun plays out this plan in his head like a fantasy, where he and his team survive the apocalypse by chilling at the Winchester pub. He's ready to put this plan into action, but uses the bathroom first for quick relief. Unfortunately, Shaun finds Grumpy inside, who has turned into a grumpy zombie, presumably from the bite we saw earlier. Shaun and Ed hilariously escape zombie Grumpy and get inside his car. After which, they go to Mommy's house. Shaun sneaks up on his daddy, thinking that he has become a zombie dad, but notices that he is still a human for now. Shaun tries to take his mom with him to the Winchester pub and tells her to leave Daddy behind, but she doesn't want to leave her hormone partner alone. Shaun has no choice but to include Daddy into his rescue plan, and then the team gets attacked by some zombies outside Mommy's house. Unfortunately, Daddy gets bitten in the neck as everyone rushes into his car. The team eventually manages to escape the zombies without any further injuries. They then reach Babe's apartment, where Shaun convinces her, blonde and nerd, to come along with him to the Winchester pub for added protection. On their way to the pub, everyone has an argument over Shaun's plan, and Daddy's condition continues to grow worse. Daddy can't take it anymore, so he shares some last words with Shaun before he dies, without leaving any heritage behind to Shaun. After an emotional session, Daddy turns into a deadly zombie, so Shaun and his team get out of the car, leaving Zombie Daddy inside, along with the weapons they had collected till now. There's no need to cry over spilled milk, so the team continues walking towards the Winchester pub, while also avoiding the zombies on the road. They even bump into Russia and her own survivor team, who are meta copies of Shaun and his team. As they get closer to the pub, Mommy notices someone who she believes to be an old friend, so she goes to meet him, but the others don't notice her straying away. Unfortunately, this man turns out to be a zombie and attacks Mommy. Shaun and his team hear Mommy cries in a chicken voice, so they rush to rescue her. After a brief struggle, Mommy gets saved from the zombie, and then the team closes in on the Winchester pub. When they reach the pub, Shaun and the team notice that it has been surrounded by zombies. With no other choice, they figure their best chance to survive the zombies is to become the zombies. So Shaun and his team mimic zombie behavior and awkwardly proceed towards the Winchester pub's entrance. They initially succeed in getting there, but are unable to get through the gate, which is locked. The team's disguise gets exposed due to their human smell, so the zombies trace and charge at them like GPS gadgets. Nerd panics like a chicken and breaks one of the windows of the pub, after which Shaun acts fast and distracts the zombies. He leads the zombies away so that the rest of his team can enter the pub without being followed. Everyone is saddened by Shaun's apparent sacrifice, but Nerd tries to convince them to barricade the broken window and leave Shaun behind. But beardless Babe refuses to betray Shaun because she still appreciates his girly beard. Nerd doesn't have time to present his argument as Shaun enters the pub from the back door. He proudly tells everyone that he had managed to escape the zombies without leading them back to the pub. With the team safe and sound, everyone waits inside the Winchester pub, hoping for the zombie apocalypse to end soon. Now, Shaun goes to the power room and tries to activate the televisions for further information, but he notices that the zombies he had escaped from earlier have actually followed him back to the pub and are trying to get inside through the back door. To make matters worse, Ed starts a jukebox, and this generates a lot of noise, which further attracts the zombies to the team. Now, the owner of the pub attacks the team because he has become a zombie, but they manage to hilariously end his bossy life by using his own jukebox against him. However, with the other zombies trying to break in, the team members equip themselves with a shotgun, which is hanging on wall. They plan their next move, but Babe discovers that Mommy had been bitten by the zombie she had encountered earlier. The zombies break in, and Shaun tries to shoot them with the shotgun, but he uses up a lot of bullets. He does manage to kill a few zombies, and then the others barricade the windows. In an emotional sequence, Mommy dies, and Nerd wants to shoot her before she turns into a zombie. But this angers Shaun, and he lashes out at him. He then reveals that Nerd had always despised him because he had been attracted to sexy Babe right from the start. As a matter of fact, Nerd only got involved with Blonde so that he could use her to get closer to Babe. Nerd's creep factor continues to rise, but Babe gets everyone to calm down. She then reasons with Shaun on what to do as Mommy wakes up as a zombie. In a heart-wrenching scene, Shaun has to shoot his own mother. He's devastated by his actions and punches Nerd in frustration. Nerd points his gun at Shaun and pulls the trigger as well, but the gun is empty. That's when zombies break through the window and rip Nerd to pieces, sending him straight to meet Satan without giving him a chance of being a nerdy zombie. Blonde tries to save Nerd, but ends up getting eaten in her smelly part. The zombie army now takes over the pub, with Zombie Grumpy also showing up and biting Ed for greasy muscles. Shaun and Babe hide in the bar and light it on fire with cocktails. They manage to hold off the zombies long enough till they enter the cellar. However, the zombies start to break through the cellar door, so Shaun and Babe consider ending their lives with the remaining 2 shotgun shells. At that very moment, Shaun discovers a switch that opens a door to outside the pub. Since Ed is bitten in his greasy part, he decides to stay back and hold off the zombies. Shaun shares an emotional moment with him before leaving with Babe. The zombies attack Ed, and then Shaun and Babe prepare to face off against the road zombies. However, the British army shows up and saves them with their heavy artillery. Even Russia is shown to have been rescued by the military, and she takes Shaun and Babe to safety. 6 months later, we see that the humans have managed to keep the zombie virus under control. They are even living with zombies and using them for labor and entertainment. Then we see Shaun and Babe living together as a happy couple. Now, Shaun goes to the shed, where we learn that he's keeping Zombie Ed as a pet. The movie ends with Shaun and Zombie Ed playing a video game. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.